just in case you missed it, it's the top 5 sports talkers of the day. Now, it's time for Dan Barrero's Top 5 at 5. Brought to you by Gutter Helmet of Minnesota. Never clean your gutters again. Learn more at gutterhelmetmn.com.
Is it that time?
It is Top 5 at 5 time.
Let's do it.
Start with your Minnesota Vikings. Final injury report of the week on a Wednesday, because the game is tomorrow. 7:15, 7:30, 7:25, whatever it is tomorrow night, right here on the Fan. Vikings and Rams. The final injury report officially has my guy Blake Cashman listed as out with the turf toe. Did not participate again today.
How is he going to milk it?
Turf toe's tricky.
That's what they say. That's where they always tell us.
That's what they tell us. Turf toe is tricky.
Do they mean it, or do they just... Is that the game?
It keeps you out a while.
Yeah, I think it does. I think you're right.
Will TJ Hawkinson play tomorrow?
Questionable?
That's questionable. He was limited in practice today. Dalton Reisner was a full participant in practice today. Also listed as questionable. Ed Ingram was also listed as questionable today, but it had nothing to do with injury.
Is that your first one of that? I mean, it's a 5-1 team,
yeah,
so you have to do it advisedly.
And I don't even I always hear PA and Alec Lewis argue about Ed Ingram. I think I'm on PA's side. I think PA is more of the Ed Ingram defender because he's a decent run blocker, apparently. I'm not watching the All-22.
No.
But who am I going to pick? Who can I say? So-and-so is questionable. You'd want me to say Ty Chandler. I'm not going to do that.
I think you should, actually.
Jordan Addison? I think he's been kind of underwhelming. I know he had the big catch, 51 yards.
He's been inconsistent. I think it's fair. I think there's some legitimate questions to ask there.
So anyway, will tomorrow night be the night that we see the Reisner move? Only time will tell Davey and TJ Hawkinson. The Rams are getting a little bit healthier. Puka Nacua is questionable. He's been out for a minute. Cooper Kupp was a full participant today, so he has no injury designation. So they may be as close to their full strength as they have been in a while when they look to keep their season going and salvage their season a little bit, as the former mentor, Sean McVay, coaches against the mentee, Kevin O'Connell. Anything you want to add?
What is the spread in that game? I think I asked you this once, and you told me, and I forgot already.
I thought we were 3-point favorites when we started. I will pull that up presently, as you would like to say. NFL odds. DraftKings Sportsbook. Yes, I want to go to a gambling site. Thank you, iHeartMedia Security. Got to hit continue. We are 2.5-point favorites.
2.5-point favorites, you say?
Yes, according to DraftKings.
Okay.
Which is what I use for the picks.
All right, let's play. Let's play.
So there we go. Speaking of Los Angeles, here was Finchy last night in LA.
I mean, we didn't play well at all, and we showed some resiliency there, clawed back in, but we couldn't make enough plays offensively to stay in the game, and then just we gotta find another level of urgency right now. Season started, and we didn't answer the bell really. So.
You know what we didn't do? We didn't play Lynx basketball.
We didn't play Timberwolves basketball. Even Van Gundy said it last night. He goes, this is not the Timberwolves we're accustomed to seeing.
No. And I understand there's a little less at stake in any one regular season game. You're not going to necessarily have the kind of, pit bull defense that we saw that basically took apart the Denver Nuggets, had them unraveling.
Throwing heating packs?
Yeah, but I mean, in all seriousness, it was, I think the term that the head coach used today, either before or after the workout, soft. It was an extremely soft.
You want the quote?
Performance. Go ahead.
For those that thought earlier you were too negative and I was too negative, here's the head coach today, according to Johnny Athletic. Not a very good representation of ourselves. I thought we were soft. I thought at times we were selfish. We didn't execute a lot of the things we talked about doing. Had to go back to basics today. End quote. It's day 2 of the regular season.
So then if either he's right or he's overreacting as well, is what it amounts to, like the rest of us.
Exactly.
Well, is he changing? I would make some changes to the starting lineup. I would bench Randall. I'd say you and Dante are going to be my super subs, and I'm going to start Naz Reid.
Naz kind of bugged me last night, too, though.
He wasn't great. He wasn't.
He still gets. I know we got the towel and the bobblehead, and we love him. He's so loose sometimes.
We've got, I think, in our rotation, and we've talked about this intermittently. Maybe we haven't talked about it enough because if you're sixth man of the year, that's a pretty big jump.
Yes.
Right? In the NBA. So he obviously emerged. But for people who want to compare him to Cat, Naz does need to take another level, another step to be, because you're in a different role when you're supposed to be one of the men, right? One of the guys, one of the staples.
Exactly. You're not an X factor.
Exactly.
You are a factor.
And I worry similarly about Jaden McDaniels. There's still too many games where he commits a stupid foul, or he seems to get lost, or he just doesn't seem. I don't think it's with him a lack of effort, but I think it's like it almost feels like it's a lack of basketball savvy. There's still some stuff that he doesn't do, or that he does do consistently, that concerns me, given all the hype he's received and all the love he's received. He's a great defensive player. We know that, and it's hard to find a defender at that height who can guard as many different positions as he can. But I still think if we're being serious about, this other step, he's got to get more consistent and get better. And it's not simply about him, the head coach calling more plays for him.
Right.
I think he's got to play better too.
We keep talking about the money that is opened up now with Carl's contract, and I'll tell you Rudy's new contract here in a minute. We keep talking about the money that we're going to pay some of these guys, including Naz Reid, and obviously they're paying Jaden a good contract as well off of his rookie deal. Like, that means you're expected to carry it,
yes,
right? It's not, hey, this is great, we've got you with Naz. You're an undrafted rookie free agent that we signed to a team-friendly deal early. That's not going to be the case forever. Like, with money comes responsibility. With these contracts comes responsibility. And so they're going to have to answer the bell for that. I mentioned Rudy's contract happened minutes before the game. I missed it until like the third quarter because I ducked in late. I was watching the Wild and then kind of ducked in.
Right.
Wasn't on social media a lot last night. But Rudy signs a 3-year contract extension worth $110 million. So he declined a player option for next season, which was $46.6 million. They tore that part up and said, I'm not going to exercise that. Just give me 3 more years. So he is signed through 27, 28 now. And I think I mentioned it, $110 million. So he does give the team a little bit
some
of
more
salary relief.
Right.
And I don't have the direct quote in front of me, but I liked it last night where he basically said something along the lines of, at some point, you don't have to be too greedy and you can give some back to the team to make sure we can stay good. I don't think he exactly went Jalen Brunson on the bit, and Rudy's made a lot of money, but I like that.
Yes.
That's helpful.
It is helpful. Anything that gives them more flexibility, no matter who ends up owning the team, is helpful. I don't think he was necessarily great yesterday, although I thought they were a lot better defensively with him in the game. The second quarter, things got really funky going to the basket. The disparity on points in the paint was ridiculous and dramatic. And it's funny because one of the comments from Van Gundy was the Lakers were in the play-in, and they pretty much said, we're fine.
Yeah.
Wolves make it to the conference finals, and they're making all these changes, which is kind of interesting when you contrast the two approaches at this point. But it would seem that the Wolves moves indicated we still have more to do. There are also some salary ramifications to what they did as well, thinking long term. But that's another reason I thought that, I don't think if they lose this game, it's going to be because they didn't look particularly engaged or hungry. Even though there's, the players they got are established players in the league, you're going, well, they're in a new place. They're going to want to make a good first impression. And I don't think it didn't look like Julius Randle was trying to make any impression at all. I mean, technically, he was the only plus-minus guy in the pluses.
Which was interesting.
Which was interesting to me.
It
plus
didn't feel
2.
like that.
I don't think that passed the eye test very well, but we'll see how the head coach responds. I mentioned earlier, my hope and my disappointment was that he would have gone to a couple of the young guys yesterday and just to see if it might change the energy of the ball game, because the Lakers were not unbeatable last night. They really weren't.
No, they didn't play that well.
They did not play that well, and so you'd like to think maybe one player could have made a little bit of difference from a juice standpoint.
At one point, they had 19 more shots than the Wolves because of second chance opportunity. They might have even been more. I'm just remembering the ones off the top of my head when Van Gundy said it because of the rebounds and the turnovers. They had 19 more shots. It's almost impossible to win a game like that.
That is correct.
So it's Wolves, Kings tomorrow night. Kings, by the way, another try-hard team. I mean, they're trying to reestablish themselves after a disappointing season a year ago. Remember, 2 years ago, they were the 3 seed. They were like the Timberwolves of last year, coming onto the scene, had good health, hosted a series, I think ended up losing to Golden State, but last year ran into some injuries of their own. But with De'Aaron Fox and with Sabonis, obviously, they're going to be ready to go tomorrow night. So you can't be half-stepping tomorrow night in sack, as Kevin Garnett would say.
Very true, Davey.
The Minnesota Wild have a game tomorrow against Tampa Bay. Russo Radio will join you tomorrow at 4:30. And the Wild stay hot. They have yet to trail in regulation. They have never trailed while the game's been going on. They've lost a couple in overtime, but they've never trailed. They win last night 5-1. The defending Stanley Cup champs in their building were the prey last night, the Florida Panthers. It was a 5-1 victory. Gus Bus, good again. 24 saves for him. Middleton had 3 assists. Zuccarello had his 4th goal of the season. Johansson, Rossi, Boldy, and Joel Eriksson-Ek also scored. Rossi and Johansson 22 seconds apart in the first period that staked the Wild to a 2-0 lead, one that they would not relinquish. They're back in action, as I mentioned, tomorrow night against Tampa Bay.
Yeah, it's all good right now for your favorite hockey team. And it was fascinating to talk to Louis about the goaltender. As suddenly the guy who was really they were hoping would play well enough to trade is now becoming basically indispensable at this early part of the season.
Fan and 2 men and a junk truck. Want to give you a shot to put $1,000 in your hand with our national cash contest. You can enter the keyword credit. That's the final keyword of this Wednesday. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword credit.
Ode to a Dead Guy when we return.
Join the voice of the Vikings, Paul Allen, at Hy-Vee in Eagan, Tuesday, October 29th. You can stop by from 4 to 5 p.m. to meet PA and Vikings defensive back Cam Bynum. Hey, we know him. Thanks to Hy-Vee and Pepsi, plus a live Q&A event to follow. Full details are at KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
On-air production meeting, as one could say, inspired by a texter. Given that the Vikings are playing tomorrow, will we be doing picks tomorrow? We have to at least do the Vikings. We can't have a pick segment that does not include the Minnesota Vikings. I don't think that's right, especially this year. So we'll have to discuss that.
We'll have to think about it because maybe we'll flip picks and Dr. Dan's inbox.
Well, we've been putting it off for, you've missed the last 4 Thursdays, so what's one more?
I've missed the last 2.
Oh.
And... no, I've only missed the last 1. We were at the X 2 Thursdays ago.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Well,
you're wrong.
I think we should,
so maybe we'll
do some flip-flopping.
Yeah. I'll see if Gaardy's available.
If Gaardy's available, because I do think it takes away from the Friday football beast, but it's only righteous, I think, that we can't do a picks segment without the Vikings being in the middle of it. I mean, Gaardy would be delighted by it.
He would.
But we're not doing the segment for Gaardy's satisfaction.
And now, it's time for Ode to a Dead Guy.
You know, we look these days at sports and big sports moments as sports events, right? If a player gets on a dominant streak and gets hot, becomes a phenomenon, a team becomes an event. It becomes appointment television pretty much every time they play. Well, I'm going to give you the precursor to that era because at this particular time in sports history, we weren't 24/7 sports by any stretch of the imagination. We didn't have a million ways to convey and communicate our affection and love and fascination and obsession with sports like we can online in 2024. But I can tell you, because I was there, when Fernando Valenzuela pitched, when he broke into the league, it was an event. Before we called them events. I like the way Rob Dibble put it. Rest in peace, Fernando, a rock star. When it was his day to pitch, the stadium was packed, and he was something special. to watch. News breaking that Valenzuela has passed away. Will you double check his age? Way too young. Way too young. 6-time All-Star. 1981 World Series champion. 1981 Cy Young winner. 1981 National League Rookie of the Year. 1981 MLB strikeout leader. 2-time Silver Slugger. His number 34 retired by the Dodgers. And, of course, he pitched a no-hitter on June 29, 1990. He had at least one season in which he had 20 complete games. And I was working in Atlanta. I had a year in Atlanta before I headed with my Bermuda shorts to Dallas, not knowing what wearing those Bermuda shorts would cost me. And I vividly remember Valenzuela coming to town with the Dodgers. Because already by then, he was a story. He was a dominant fixture that year. And he was that kind of pitcher where you go, you watching the Dodgers tonight? Well, who's pitching? Valenzuela. Dumb question. Yeah, you can't miss him. You can't miss that kind of excellence, that kind of performance, because it's sort of kind of, like I said, kind of came out of nowhere. And I do think for a lot of people, the international flavor to it did add another element. It made it harder in one way, because I also vividly recall that, you know, because he was so much in media demand and he couldn't do all those interviews, whenever the Dodgers showed up in a new city, they would do sort of like a pre-series group presser with Valenzuela. I was there to attend it and had to write off of it, as I recall. And he did not, at that point, speak very good English. So there was a translator there. I also painfully remember, I'm not going to name the writer, who muttered something to the effect of, you know, we're in America, why can't he speak English? And I remember looking at that individual and going, not saying, because I was the young pup, but looking at him and going, what are you talking about? He wasn't born here. And
he's like 18 at the time,
12.
Right?
He's got another language that he grew up with. What is wrong with you? But I will add, the reality is that when there's that language barrier, let alone that sort of pathetic resentment, it's harder to get the flavor, right? It's harder to get the story that Fernando Valenzuela represented. He was that good. You're probably way too young.
No, but I remember the vibe and the hype, just hearing about it or learning about it, because by the time I got involved in sports, we're talking like 88, 89, 90. But you read about it, and you go to the school library, and you read the stories. That was back in the day. I think they still do this, but you could read books on almost any star athlete, right? Yes. They just kind of told their life story, real quick ones. And I remember reading about him. He was 63, and that stopped me last night, too, because he feels like he should be much, much older.
The other thing,
but he was so young when he came here.
Has it been announced what he was suffering from?
I don't know.
I asked that question because there was just an event in L.A. What was the event? Where he was there, and he looked like he had lost 75 pounds. He looked frail. So I'm wondering if he was battling something, and that's what this is directly related. He didn't even really look like the same person. You know, we all age and things change, the body and the face and so forth. But I'm wondering what that might have been. And there's a viral video going around of a moment, and I don't remember the exact circumstance. Any historic Dodger moment has to include who? Vin Scully in the retelling of it. And it's video of Scully at a packed Chavez Ravine, Dodger Stadium. He's on the mound. Vince Scully's on the mound with a microphone, and he's got a baseball in his left hand. And he's starting to go through a pitcher's motion like he's going to throw it left-handed. And he freezes about halfway through with the ball in his hand, and he says, oh, man, I don't know what's going on with my arm. And he looks around the stadium, and he says, I need a left-hander. Any left-handers out there who might be able to finish this follow-through for me? and there's a long pause, and the ovation starts to build, and a, by then, retired Fernando Valenzuela trots out from the Dodgers dugout to the mound. It's emotional. And I don't know that I've ever seen it before. He hands the ball to Fernando, and he gets a ceremonial first pitch to the plate. It's a really, really good moment.
Liver cancer is what Bob Nightingale and some others are talking about.
That's rough. That is so rough. That's so hard to hear. But you could sense something was not right. But an absolute, very good pitcher, but I do think of it more as the event guy. The first event guy I can remember in baseball before we labeled things that way, because there was no great social media craze. The craze then was he'd get write-ups by the newspaper in every town he'd go to pitch, right? That was the craze. And obviously on TV, if the Dodgers were being shown, you'd see it, but there weren't as many national games then as well. So it was a completely different kind of a deal. I think of Valenzuela emerging in today's culture, how much bigger even than he was then, than he might have been. But it was all very organic then. This guy just came out of nowhere and pitched brilliantly from the start and was one of the all-time greats for a team, the Dodgers, who have an endless array of their list of great pitchers is absurd over the years. The Los Angeles Dodgers, indeed. Bottom of the hour pause. Is Kessler in?
He's supposed to be. He sent the email.
Okay.
I haven't seen him.
Well, we'll chat. We hope with him in person, if not by telephone. Getting ever closer to the 2024. Oh, there he is. Oh, his head just popped up. I thought
like
he
a
was.
meerkat.
Don't take this wrong, Kessler, but I thought he was Brett Blakemore. And now he's bitter. What's wrong with that? Brett Blakemore is a hell of a guy.
He's 50 years younger than Pat Kessler.
You'd think he'd actually be complimented by that, as old as Special K look.
I wish the American media would take a great look at the views of the people in Congress and find out, are they pro-America or anti-America?
Pat Kessler.
Because people have got to know whether or not their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
I can't trust Obama. He's an Arab.
Pat Kessler.
Tear down this wall.
I did nothing wrong at the Minneapolis airport.
Senator, you're no Jack Kennedy.
Pat Kessler.
And now, to help Dan break down all the tough questions in politics, it's our own
Pat Kessler.
Political Wonk.
I feel like a supermodel, except like times 10.
It's Channel 4's
Pat Kessler.
with Dan Barrero on the Fan.
It is indeed that time again. Bradshaw and Bryant, KFAN text line is open. 646 86 646 86. Oh, by the way, let me on our production meeting with Gaardsy. Let me see if I want to read the text accurately. You know who else I got a text from today is Michael Hurley, but we got no room to put anybody on the rest of this week, do we? God, dang it. There's a lot to get to with him. This is a text I got with a photo from Lavelle at 5:53 p.m. yesterday. Just got out of surgery and found out I'm getting ripped. What for now?
Yeah, he sent me the same text. I didn't even respond.
Okay, I haven't either. Is that cold?
I think it's fitting.
I'll add, here's an independent source. That's the beauty of Kessler's appearances here. How long have you been on this station?
25, 30 years.
It's got to be. So Chad Barrero, you were on with us together for, I don't know, what year that would have started.
I was on way before that.
You were on before Chad Barrero?
Oh, yeah.
With who?
Well, that would have been like 40 years then, Pat.
I mean, the station started in 91.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was probably on in 91.
Okay.
So I was on with Bob Yates in the morning.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so you've been on forever. It's been literally decades.
David Brower.
Yes, you've gone. Yeah. You've run the gauntlet here. Yeah. So the question then becomes obvious because you're still on. Why engage with a show, with a station that is about nothing but bits?
And about nothing that
no substance.
Right.
It's
just one bit after another.
One bit after another with no real, like I said, there's no high level discourse going on here. So why would you agree? Why would you want to associate with that?
A legitimate political reporter Hall of Famer.
Doesn't that bring you down? Doesn't that undermine your credibility?
I constantly remind you that I am a man of certain journalistic perfection. I have a reputation to uphold, and I come on here to try to lift up the show because it's a series of bits. It's true. It is.
So you're here to help.
All I do is give.
Yeah, you do. You help.
And so a couple of days ago, I'm like Lavelle. And by the way, isn't that interesting? He comes out of surgery, and the first thing the nurses tell him,
you're getting ripped
on Ferrero. Because very likely the surgeon doing the operation is listening, because it's happened to me, listening to KFAN in the surgical theater.
Well, we have gotten confirmation of that from doctors. I have emailers saying that because I think the working theory is that if doctors are going to pipe in music, it's going to be sort of soothing,
right.
Maybe classical music.
Right.
But it turns out many of them are inspired by rantings in the afternoon.
Rantings, jokes, bits, all of that.
Bits, mainly bits.
And so, which brings me to a couple of days ago in my life. I'm in my garage.
Okay.
Working on my vintage International Scout, 1979 International Scout.
What is that? I don't know what that means.
Walls.
What is that?
You didn't get the bit.
No, I didn't get the bit.
Governor Walz has a 1979 International Scout vintage classic.
Well, what's an International Scout?
I thought he had one.
Is that a car?
I thought he had one. Does he still have one?
Is that a lawnmower?
Absolutely.
What is it?
Well, it's what was it? It's not the Bronco that
it's like the first SUV.
The very first, yeah. I think Tom Cruise might have had one in the movie with the bus movie. You know that deal. You know that you have
the
one
bus movie.
Bus movie?
Yeah, with
the Tom Cruise.
You mean
bus
Risky Business?
No,
that was a
Cocktail?
train. That was the Choo Choo movie. What movie are you talking about?
Well, it's the one with where there's a runaway bus on the
runaway bus.
Yeah, what is that movie? They're in the airport and they're trying to. Come on,
with Tom Cruise?
I don't know if it's Tom Cruise.
I think it was somebody. I think you're thinking of somebody else.
I'm working on my 1979 classic car in my garage. Washing the carburetor parts and gasoline, and suddenly I hear you ripping me.
Yeah, I did. It was gratuitous.
It's out of nowhere.
But was it accurate?
Are you a beautiful person?
I am a beautiful person.
So I'm not wrong, even if it was
you just associate me with things that I'm a beautiful person, even if you're wrong about what you associate me with. But and I don't even remember.
But what I was doing was I was complimenting the average Minnesota Lynx
great fans
in arena audience,
incredible fans,
because they actually are interested in the ball. They're interested in the basketball. And I'm saying that's contrary to you as one of the beautiful people who want to go to be seen. You're the and one. You're in the suites. You might occasionally deign to turn around to actually watch the game.
You're not wrong.
But you might not. So I'm not wrong.
I might get pants, not wear pants. You can do whatever.
So, have you ever even been to a Lynx game?
I might get season tickets this coming season.
So that's a no.
I've been to many.
That's a no.
I've been to many.
No, you haven't. You haven't
Ask
been
me
to
how
many. How many have you been
Several. Ask me again.
How many is several?
Well, a few, a couple.
A couple, maybe.
Ask me again.
How many have you been to?
None.
I know it. I know it.
Wow.
Beautiful people fraud.
I listen and I watch.
Okay.
I mean, we do.
All right.
In my house. I mean, we're big fans. So
it's not illegal to go.
Yeah. Okay.
You have the money to do it.
I know.
You're not living check to check. Your household for sure.
So, yeah, it is one bit after another.
You're thinking of Keanu Reeves in the motion picture Speed.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Wasn't Sandra Bullock in that?
Yeah, you know how old I am. You know how old I am.
You are. You forget.
So I forgot that stuff.
Yeah, you forgot.
Yeah, so great movie. So Keanu Reeves, and how could I forget him? One of the greatest iconic.
And who was the villain? Wasn't Dennis Hopper the villain in that movie?
Yes.
Dennis Hopper.
God, Dennis
Think
Hopper.
about it.
How great is he?
Yeah. It was a good movie. I wouldn't call it great.
It's a great movie.
It's entertaining.
Very entertaining.
Okay.
You need to have. It can't be great.
You think I got to broaden my standards?
Yes.
Oh. Well, I have grade on a hard curve. I'm sorry.
12-year-old Gaardsy had great appreciation for Sandra Bullock.
Yep. I knew what you were going to say.
Still does.
Yeah, I know.
Calm down.
Well, I'm just saying.
You're being honest about it.
Yeah.
Speaking of surgery, hold on. Let me scroll down. We've got a lot of Speed references coming in. People.
Thank you, everybody, for
definitely
saving me.
trying to help us out. Zach writes, I'm currently doing open heart surgery. Now that'd be
as
something.
a doctor or a patient?
Zach Halverson?
I'm going to say as a doctor, but then that means he stopped the procedure long enough to text us that he's doing open heart surgery.
And your jokes and your bits, is there ever a laugh?
No, probably not.
Does the surgeon laugh? And when you laugh, do your hands move?
That's the problem.
That's the problem. Or now are you using computer laser surgical instruments? So that's the deal. Yeah, so I know this happens because I know of a couple people who work in healthcare, and they tell me it's on in there. So.
Have you ever, been in recovery, post-surgery, and as you're coming to, you're listening to Bumper to Bumper?
Well, I had surgery, some minor surgery, a couple of months ago.
Was that the goiter?
Is that a real thing, by the way?
Yeah, goiter's real.
Do you need one? Can you have it removed?
I think you can have a goiter removed. I don't think is a goiter an organ? I think a goiter is a growth that you don't want to have.
Correct.
I think. Or maybe that's a carbuncle. I'm not sure. I always get the goiter or carbuncle.
Carbuncles removed.
I don't doubt it.
So I come out of this procedure, and they are all talking about Gaardsy and Barrero because they were listening in there.
Yeah.
Talking about it, yeah. So
they must like bits too.
I've had trouble ever since. With my eyes. I had eyes.
So you're not sure that you think they might have been distracted when they did the procedure?
I went back to have the incision checked because, just because. Make sure there wasn't a little. So, this happened. So,
speaking of that bit with Walls, because did you get that from the Smartless podcast?
I honestly did not. I had not heard about that.
About his car?
Yeah, I did not hear about the lug nut.
That's been a big thing for a long time.
Apparently, it's coming back. Some company is building a new one.
Is it going to be classic like that?
I think so. He just brought it up on the Smartless podcast that I listened to the other day with your guy, Will Arnett, Jason Bateman, and Sean Hayes.
Great podcast.
Do you know what he said? And I should have pulled the audio.
Yes.
They asked him, I think Bateman asked him, are you bitter about people that call you Waltz?
Oh, I did. I heard this.
And?
He said,
go ahead.
It is a little annoying. He said, I don't know where people, he said, maybe it's from his ancestors. Maybe they dropped the T when he came over, but
from Germany,
people are calling me Waltz. Well, and they asked him straight up.
And he's upset. He's upset about it. But then he said there's a member of his family who gets really worked up. His daughter, Hope.
Really?
Gets very worked up.
Is that the one who was in the video, the State Fair video, about they were going to each do what the other one wanted them to do once?
Yeah.
Yeah, was that Hope? Okay.
Did he make her eat turkey? She's a vegetarian or something?
He made her eat meat.
Yeah.
And she made him get on one of those rides that would kill me.
That doesn't seem fair.
No, it doesn't.
Making her change her lifestyle.
Well, I would say what he was forced to do.
My daughter would never do that.
Would not.
No.
Would not.
It goes against stay out of our mind your own damn business.
Mind your own damn business.
That's true.
He also said that they're coming out with an electric Scout.
That's what it was.
That's
an electric
impressive.
International Scout. So, he has been making the rounds, and we can talk about that sometime, but making the rounds of the touchy-feely, friendly podcasts and The View and The Daily Show, all of that kind of thing. So,
Brad has a question that might take us in a slightly different,
here we go,
perhaps dangerous direction. Is Kessler going to get the Arnold Palmer surgery?
The surgical enhancement. The surgical enhancement.
That would be what I'm trying to be kind about it, but
I want to see the back.
And you are too. So First of all, I don't want to get too graphic here. It's the last thing I want to do. And you actually have this on your list, which we'll get to in a minute. You ask an interesting question.
You don't want to be too small, if you know what I mean.
Is it confirmed, for whatever it's worth, that Arnold Palmer wowed others in the locker room in that regard?
Have we called Jack Nicklaus? Have we called Gary Player?
No, the basic question here, and I ask this as a non-golfer, when you're done with your 18 holes at Interlaken, Gaardsy, do you go in the showers and does everybody take a shower? Wear pants, not wear pants, you can do whatever. Well, where did that ever come from?
I think Blakemore must have grabbed it because it wasn't me.
Oh, for God's sakes.
I'll answer it, even though I'm not a golfer either. As I understand it, it's not necessarily that you would shower next to another golfer, but you might come out of the shower about the same time, or you might be back closer to wherever your locker is getting dressed
in the locker room.
And Arnold Palmer comes back, and maybe Arnold Palmer just feels like, I don't need no damn towel.
Showing his driver.
He's showing his driver. That's exactly it. So I think that's more likely. I mean, if I go back to my health club days, Marvin Harv's club, that's that's how I found myself. Who was the UConn basketball coach many years ago? Was it Calhoun?
Jim Calhoun.
I found myself.
Oh, no.
Now what?
Naked face to face with Coach Calhoun.
How'd that work out?
Well, it worked out fine. It's just, what do you say to him? Hey, Coach. Hey, I'm in.
How's Danielle Marshall doing?
I mean, and I think because the team was in town for a tournament, and he probably wanted to use the club downtown.
Yeah.
He was a guy who liked to stay in shape.
Arena Club was awesome.
Was living downtown then, and that's where I, worked out, did on the what do you call it? The
track?
The track. Yeah, they had a small track.
And you run on it with 1 foot after another.
I'm old too. I have problems. Yeah, so that was, that was just not always ready for that sort of thing when you see so.
It's a locker room. That's what happens.
That's in the locker room happens. Bob Kravitz, do you know who Bob Kravitz is?
Yes, absolutely.
Bob Kravitz was a longtime columnist in Indianapolis. He had no idea.
Yes,
I think now he's independent. I don't even know. Is he with the Athletic? I don't know who he's with, if he's with anybody. He also went to Indiana like I did. He was a little younger than me. And he's the one who remembers this story better than I do. That the first time he interviewed Bob Knight, Assembly Hall had a weird deal where underneath the court, there was a stairwell going down to like a locker room for the coach and a shower and so forth. And what he recalls, I don't have a vivid recollection of it, was that he thanked me because he didn't think he was going to get the interview by himself, but I was also there. By then, I think I was working in Louisville. And we interviewed Knight stark naked. That Knight had finished the shower, and it was just sitting there, just hanging out.
Wasn't there a Mavericks coach you did that with too?
Dick Motta. Yeah.
Why is it that you
remember?
And I'm not making up that name, Dick Motta. That was his name. He was a very good basketball coach. I regret thoroughly my willingness. I can even tell you who I was talking to Dick Motta about. Yeah. Sam Perkins was a former North Carolina front court player, very good player.
Seared into your brain.
Seared into my brain, and I was doing a profile on him, and I wanted to talk to Motta, and he says, how much time do you need? I said, I just probably need about 10 minutes. He said, just save time. I'm going to, So I'm sitting
Dick
there
Motta's
interviewing.
a busy guy.
I'm interviewing Dick Motta while he is taking a shower, and I'm going, what's wrong with me?
I want to see the package.
I should have said, Dick, I'll see you later.
What happened to my life that I ended up in this spot on this day?
And anybody who wants to know why I don't miss sports writing is I don't have to worry about having those interview possibilities take place every once in a while.
Well, as you know, there are many stories about Lyndon Baines Johnson, President Johnson.
Joe Califano told some of them on this show.
And he would he was a close talker. He would try to intimidate people with his behavior.
Yes.
And he would call Hubert Humphrey into his bathroom while he's on the toilet.
Yeah, that's even worse than the shower.
Yeah.
He's on the toilet doing what you do on the toilet when you sit, and subjecting the other person to that.
So there's a power imbalance.
Well, yes, there would be.
Which in some ways, going back to your guy, former President Trump, telling this story about Arnold Palmer, why? What is the political purpose of this? What is the goal of this?
Right.
Are you speak? And it's 10 minutes of this. And I'm looking at the video of him talking about it. And there are parents there with kids next to them. And, they're yucking it up. I don't quite get it. But he's appealing to a certain group of people, maybe white male voters, maybe golfers, maybe interlocking
who
golfers.
Equate penis size with power,
manhood,
with manliness.
Whatever that is.
Right.
But he's trying to get more voters. But as I heard today on a podcast, the only poll that really matters is on Election Day.
Well, that's profound.
I should have had a laugh track for you there, Kessler.
You didn't get the.
I didn't get it. I did, but it's okay.
It's not that good.
It's all right. It's not horrible. We've offered up worse. You have as well.
All right.
I think it's okay.
So you know what? So that's just one of the crazy events that happened.
Yeah, there have been quite a few. We're going to get to more of those in a minute. We owed it Fernando Valenzuela, dead at, did you say 63, Gaardsy?
Yep.
And it turns out to be liver cancer. Poor guy. You could tell that it had ravaged him. It had taken a toll on him. That's a tough one to get. And you're old enough, obviously, you're old enough to remember Babe Ruth, let alone Fernando Valenzuela, that he kind of came on the scene so quickly and so dramatically. His first 2 years, really.
Early 1980s.
That's correct. Yeah. And he was... he became, now there weren't as many games available then, but if you had a chance to go to see him pitch, he was bringing people in to visit. Like the Atlanta Braves, suddenly the night he pitched had a bunch more people. That's how it became very quickly.
So the thing about him, though, that made him endeared him to millions of baseball fans is that he's pudgy, he's a little short, he's stocky, had long hair. He had this windup that was crazy.
Screwball was his pitch.
Yes.
The screwball.
And it was such a dramatic entry into Major League Baseball. I think he was a relief pitcher. He'd never opened a game. So on opening day, Lasorda brings him in.
Exactly, yeah.
And this pudgy guy from a small town in Mexico.
That's it.
And he pitches. I think he won that game. And I think he won the Cy Young Award.
He won it his first full season, I think.
Okay, so that was opening day.
Yeah,
so
right.
Maybe he didn't. Right. Anyway, he won Rookie of the Year.
Yes, he did.
And Cy Young.
He did
the same year.
That's correct.
Has that ever happened before?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I've told you my Lasorda story, right?
It's a great one.
My Lasorda Sinatra story. So Lasorda, of course, knew everybody in Hollywood. He was one of those guys. He managed there forever. And there was I'm not going to name the reporter because I think he might still be alive. Gaardsy may have heard this story before. I'm not sure. I put it under the classification of define power. Well, it was a reporter for one of the Los Angeles papers, sports writer, who had a vacation in Spain. And he got caught, I want to say it was on the way back, or maybe while he was there, arrested, got a bunch of drugs on him. He's in serious trouble. This isn't going to be a thing like he's going to be out in 3 weeks. He's got some problems. So this reporter knew Lasorda pretty well, apparently. So somehow, maybe he gets his one call, I don't know, in Madrid or Barcelona, wherever it was in Spain. He gets word back to Lasorda, I'm hurting here, man. If there's anybody you think that could help me, let me know. Lasorda says, let me think about this a minute. Well, I know the chairman of the board. I know Frank Sinatra. I know Frankie. I think I could call in a couple things here. I don't know what he could do. Maybe he's got some connections. So Lasorda, as the story goes, calls Sinatra, explains the situation. Sinatra says, give me a minute.
Oh, boy.
Puts down one phone, Lord. Picks up another. He calls King Juan Carlos of Spain.
Come
on speed dial.
Come on.
And basically says, hey, Paisan, we need a little help here. Can you help us out? And as the story goes, Juan Carlos made a couple of phone calls. And that reporter today remains free. I'm not even sure it's a story to be proud of. I mean, if he did, he probably should have been punished. But it's an example of knowing the right people and power. Lasorda to Sinatra to King Juan Carlos of Spain.
Look it up, kids. Frank Sinatra.
That's pretty good, don't you think? Somebody's selling as Lasorda was a jackass. He could be. He could be very difficult to deal with. But
I'm getting texted. Stop associating interlocking golfers with Donald Trump and that story.
There's some bitterness there.
Don't know why.
Yeah. All right, let's do this. Let's pause. There is some political stuff that we'll get to as well, including, I guess, some confirmation. The latest, or one of the latest, conspiracy theories involving Waltz comes from Russia. There's a shocker. That and more as we get ever closer to Election Day 2024.
Raise a glass for Ron White's return to the island. From hilarious childhood stories to witty tales about life now, you'll laugh along to it all when he takes the stage at Treasure Island Saturday, April 19th, and tickets are on sale now. You can get yours at ticasino.com.
Real quick, before we get to some stuff on your list, I've gotten several texts on this. In fact, I'd seen it previously, and I don't even know what to do with these stories because they're so, wildly and recklessly presented sometimes. But I keep reading it now. There's a story out there that's making the rounds that even for Donald J. Trump would end it for him today. I no longer believe there's any story that would end it for him, but
there is not.
Are you aware? Have you seen these reports, and what could it possibly do? Have any idea?
No.
What it could be?
No, I have not seen the most recent one if it came out during the last hour, but I see a couple, 3 every single day, and 3 of them are not true. We keep hearing there's, I'm not even going to start repeating this.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
worth
it's
doing
not
it.
worth
You're right.
it. So no. We are in such a toxic state in our politics that both with President Trump, Kamala Harris, the vice presidential candidates, and it's a nice segue into what's happening to Governor Tim Walz right now.
Let's talk about that one. This is the fabricated video that's been out for a while.
Couple of weeks, right?
Yeah. And what's changed is, in fact, the real person said, by the way, that's me, and that's not me. I'm a real person, but I never even talked to him. So give us at least a little sense of what the video alleges, and then what we're now learning about who might be behind it.
Well, let's give just a very brief background.
Right.
This is a video that is making the rounds on social media, in which it purports to be, it's a fake. It's all fake. It purports to be a former student from Mankato West High School who says wrongly that he had Tim Walz as a teacher and accuses him of improper conduct. That's the background here. This has had millions and millions and millions of views, and it's fake. It's a smear. It's not true in any way. Now, the U.S. State Department and intelligence sources now say that Russia is seeking to disrupt the U.S. elections. This is according to the Washington Post. And Russia created this fake Walz video and other material that is smearing Democratic vice presidential nominee Tim Walz with abuse allegations. They're also trying to incite violence. So this is one more case where don't pay attention to this stuff and get your information from credible sources that can be where everything they have on the site can be verified. A lot of this stuff is just in the dark corners of the interweb. And part of the problem is that they keep proliferating, and the companies like X and Facebook don't take them down soon enough. And in X's case, in this one, didn't take it down, I think, after being notified. So right away, I should say. I think it's down now, but it keeps popping up in other places. It's a terrible situation to be in, and it's trying to influence our elections. So be aware and be careful.
This is a semi-related, but it's probably worth more time on a different day. The Economist had a story that's getting a lot of attention, going back to the Russian part of this thing. That alleges this goes that the strategy from the Russians at this point goes well beyond what we're just talking about here. Arson, sabotage, dangerous actions conducted with increasing recklessness is how the head of the MI5, the Great Britain's domestic security and counterintelligence agency, says of the threat posed by Russia and its military intelligence agency. The GRU in particular is on a sustained mission to generate mayhem on British and European streets. So this goes beyond Ukraine. It suggests that there's literally stuff, violence taking place. that the West needs to, if it's not, needs to take more seriously, which takes it to a whole nother level beyond, planting these fake stories. Are you aware of this story? Did you see it? Did you read about it?
Yes, I didn't read the story, but I am aware of it, that this is in capitals all around the world. It's almost like an apocalypse movie where this is popping up in different countries. And here in the United States, Russia is trying to do this. They're trying to incite violence in different ways, according to U.S. intelligence officials, but also Iran is now trying to get involved. And then meanwhile, we are more polarized as a nation than we have been in decades, perhaps in a century. And we have a candidate, Donald Trump in this case, who is refusing to say he will accept the results of the election. So suddenly it gets very serious with all of this stuff coming together.
Is there a single representative or individual who worked within the Trump White House who is not distancing themselves from him? The latest that's gotten a lot of attention is the former chief of staff, John Kelly. There have been a number of military folks. Who's the military guy most recently who basically said, yeah, exactly, laid out just some frightening beliefs in how dangerous he thinks it would be to bring Trump back. Kelly is the latest, correct?
Yes, and I don't want to make this a Trump bashing thing, but here is the news from today that former Chief of Staff John Kelly, who is an awarded 4-star general, who was the Chief of Staff, is now coming out publicly, as General Milley did, the former the head of the Army Chief of Staff or the Armed Forces. And they're saying that Trump is a fascist, that he's authoritarian, that he admires Hitler. He's embarrassed by amputee veterans. They're confirming all of this reporting that we've had. And former President Trump, unfortunately, is suggesting that some of them should be court-martialed, that they should be imprisoned, people who say these things, particularly the military. So that's where we are right now. And he's in the last week saying he wants to use the military against his political opponents. Now, everybody's running around with their hair on fire, but this might just be another distraction. Republicans, many cabinet secretaries under Trump are not endorsing him, nor is his vice president endorsing him. So where are we right now?
Isn't there a new Mitch McConnell book coming out? In fact, the guy who wrote it, I went to school with at IU. He worked at the student newspaper with me. Michael Tackett, I think is his name, in which also some of this, I think, been leaked, and it's much the same. It's McConnell just destroying Trump. And you could again say it's bashing, but it's factual in terms of you have to report that these individuals are laying out these claims. So they can't be ignored.
So we're in this position where the vast majority of his top level cabinet officials that he appointed and brought in are not just not voting for him, they're coming out actively opposing him and calling him a danger. Now, what is a regular voter supposed to do with this? Are they saying it's overblown? All the things that Donald Trump is saying, he doesn't really mean it. Don't take it seriously. He's just trying to distract us. But as the poet once said, when somebody tells you who they are, believe them the first time. Now, perhaps we're just kind of making this up where it used to be back in the day where we'd be talking about tax policy and child tax credits and America's defense and foreign policy. That's not what this is about anymore. And Dan, there's just a couple of weeks left, less than 2 weeks left, and look where we are.
What's the date of the election?
That'll be November 5.
So is that
November 5?
Is that a week from this coming Tuesday?
So that I got
2 weeks from yesterday.
2 weeks from yesterday. Yeah.
So there we are. So
wow.
Yeah, it's coming real fast. And at this point, I think, other than I'm not one of these who's really bashing the hell out of President Trump. I think it was brilliant when he did this McDonald's thing where people are talking about it. But there's almost nothing you can do to change the mind of a voter right now.
I don't think so.
Just to convince them to vote, maybe.
Do you buy that's the game? The game is get as many people out to actually vote.
I 100% believe it. Yeah, and you got to reach these people, which is why the Arnold Palmer story was reaching somebody, just as Kamala Harris is going after women in the suburbs. She's trying to peel off some white males, the dudes for Kamala. So there's just really tiny slivers of voters who are out there. And this is still, as we have talked about for weeks, I really believe this is a coin flip. Donald Trump can win this, absolutely can win this. And so can Kamala Harris.
On that note, we'll see you at the... I'm trying to think what your next sporting event will be.
Will the Lynx victory party, or they're coming back just to...
Well, they didn't win.
I understand. It's just what I'm saying is what a great season.
What a great season. What a great life.
Yeah.
The whole bit.
Yeah. I mean, that'll be it.
Your next game is Nashville.
Going to the Vikings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very surprised you're not going back to L.A. for the Rams game. Is it because it's a Thursday nighter?
It's a beautiful city. Let's just say that. And had a wonderful time at the Rose Bowl.
Ski-U-Mah-Lot Saturday?
Ski-U-Mah-Lot, unfortunately, this weekend, it's homecoming and won't be at homecoming this weekend. Yeah. Should I just say, just to continue? Yeah, of course I'll be there.
Can I have your tickets?
Wow.
Yeah, what are you doing with your tickets?
Well, why don't you mind your own damn business?
Okay, thanks, Governor Walz.
Yeah.
Or Waltz. We'll chat next week. Thanks, Gaardsy.
Yep.
That's Pat Kessler. And we're getting closer and closer to Election Day. We'll come back and wrap up a very busy program. Good things coming up on Thursday and Friday. We'll give you detail.
Show Wrap is brought to you by American Pressure, commercial-grade pressure washer since 1975.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
Very eclectic program today that included visits with Glenn Mason in hour 1, Louie in hour number 2, and Mr. Kessler, who is still hanging out in our last 45 minutes or so.
I'm worried about him unguarded right now because Parker Fox is here. Parker records his podcast in our studios on Wednesday nights. Yeah. And I'm worried that Parker just came over and now super fan Pat Kessler is
glom all over.
Harass him.
Yeah, that would be on course.
Thankfully, we're almost done, so I can supervise a little bit.
Yeah, you might have to. We may, if we can, move picks to tomorrow because, of course, the Vikings are in action against the Rams. If that's doable, we'll include also Sean Salisbury to help us preview Vikings-Rams and Russo Radio. That means we'll probably try to move Dr. Dan's inbox to Friday's show, the Friday Football Beast. Well, it's by definition a beast if it's the day after a Vikings game.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, there'll be plenty of Vikings conversation on Friday. Ben Gessling will help us figure it all out. Is Lavel going to milk it, his surgery, or is he expected to join us on Friday?
He's expected to join, as far as I know. No, one of us should probably text him back after he texted us both yesterday, wondering why he was being ripped.
Yeah, we both have been a little bit chilly on that, I guess. But he understands it, I hope.
We always give him a chance to respond, unlike him when he rips us.
Very, very true, Davey. X's and O's tonight. Is that the plan? Vikings X's and O's, one of your favorite shows?
It is. And I think it's both KOC and Quasi tonight because of the short week.
Quasi was part of the ping pong invitational, too.
Nice.
Yeah, he was kind enough to show up. And I expressed my concern for him after the tough loss. And he said, we're fine. Maybe he's got some up his sleeve already. A lot of speculation about not necessarily a quarterback move, but that there's some, for example, some interior defensive linemen that might be interesting for us. I think you're kind of obligated, are you not, to explore and look around. Now, we have not a lot of draft capital.
No.
That's the issue. But maybe you can work well into the future there. But I'll be as curious as anybody to see if there are any moves we might make to help us out. And like I said, a lot of people are very confident that we're going to take care of business tomorrow night. I think it's a trap game a little bit. The Rams, I don't think they're not great, but it's there. I know there isn't there in the usual traditional sense because there'll probably be more Vikings fans, both in the arena and in the press box than we usually have.
Yeah.
So, in any case, what's wrong?
That was good. I didn't catch that one right away. That was good. You caught me. You caught me on that.
I mean, logically,
it's where they should be.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody there they belong there.
Still no cheering in the press box, but maybe in LA it doesn't matter because there's so little interest in the Rams in LA.
PA had the Vox on, and he makes a good point. Mm-hmm. It's going to take a while for Los Angelinos to get behind this club. And there's so many people that are transplants out there that it's probably going to be 15 years before Rams actually have fans.
Maybe longer.
Yeah. But he said Stafford's used to going on the silent count by now, home and road. It doesn't phase them anymore, right? To have to go on the silent count.
They're so conditioned by it. I don't disagree. I'm not surprised.
It's just how it is. It's really not that big a deal at this point.
No question, Davey. Yeah, there's some Wolves bashing early. Not going to lie, not going to run from it at all. I did not like the look of it. I don't care about losing. I didn't like the look of it. Thought we were past it. I at least thought we'd say we're in a different role. And by the way, last year it was not just that first loss to Toronto. It was the third game against Atlanta where we gave up like 180.
Yeah.
But the two together. And I say, but then we weren't the focus nationally. We got responsibilities if we want to be one of the teams. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 3.